Right, that's it. Forgotten what a live button looked like. I can't. Yeah, I can see the chat. So anyway, hopefully a few people noticed that I'm live for the first time in months that isn't a Sunday, and I'm sure nobody recognises the guy next to me. So for anybody who's just arrived on the planet and has a YouTube account, his name is David Wood, and it's not worth listing his accolades because we've only got a short amount of time. Needless to say, polemicist, Christian apologist, all round funny guy, uh, Islamicized, like massive channel, loads of bids. You'll find them somewhere. And I'm going to, where can people find you actually, David?
They can look up David Wood and they'll get a bunch of mean stuff, but they'll find some of my stuff too.
Where's the best place? Is it your website?
Um,
Accidentally?
Probably. I mean, the next thing I'm going to be posting on is Apologetics Roadshow. If anyone wants to check that out.
Yep. Okay, that's on YouTube, everyone. But don't go now. Go afterwards. Use a pen, something like that. So we're here briefly for me because I usually chitty chat, and briefly for David as well. We wanted to discuss Ali Dawah, the debacle, the catastrophe for Islam that is Ali D, as I'm going to call him. Yeah, I spoke to him Sunday, so the members will already have seen the video, and I'll make it public before I speak to AP tomorrow and go through it forensically, probably. But I promised David that I would approach him and ask him about his claim, if you haven't heard, that all scientific miracles of the Quran are, but it's been debunked. He didn't mention who debunked it, when they debunked it, why, whether it was the collective efforts of Christian. That's not important right now, guys. What's important is Ali knows the truth and everyone else is a cretin. So what do you take from all this, David? Do you think Islam's on the way out? Do you think it's just idiots like Ali? Like, how do you think the upper echelons are doing at the moment?
I think they're in trouble. I think they're in quite a bit of trouble. They used to have this. They used to have this dream scenario where their preachers were preaching to people who knew absolutely nothing about Islam. So when Ahmed Deedat went out and so on, and he would go to some university or something like that and had this public discussion. I mean, he's talking in front of an audience that knew absolutely nothing about Islam. They knew nothing about what's in the Quran. They knew nothing about what's in the Hadith. I mean, think about this. I mean, your Hadith collections and so on. Those weren't even. I mean, even Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, they weren't even translated to like the 1980s. So,
Yeah.
and then no one had access to them. That was back when you had to buy physical copies. It's even more recent that you could find this stuff online. So it's basically they were in an atmosphere of complete ignorance, and
Control over the, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't just the non-Muslims who didn't know anything about Islam. It was the Muslims who didn't know anything about Islam. When Zakir Naik was when Zakir Naik was preaching to an audience, they didn't know anything about what's in the Quran and so on. So this allowed them to say whatever they want and to make things up. And so they just made things up about the perfect
No way.
preservation. Yeah.
I demand evidence. You say they've been fibbing to the whole planet?
Yeah. And so they made up all these things about perfect preservation and scientific miracles and mathematical marvels and all this nonsense. And no one was really in a position to refute them back then. But notice, even if you could refute them, if Zakir Naik is talking to an audience of 20,000 people in India, and what were you going to do back in the day? Make an article responding to them? Those people weren't going to see the same. They weren't going to look up your refutation. They're just going to mindlessly believe what Zakir Naik says. So this allowed them to prop up Islam on a foundation of complete lies. And now we're getting to a period where the lies are catching up with them, and their lies are dropping like flies. I'll just have to say.
That's brilliant. I was going to say that even today, it's difficult to get your mind around it. Maybe not, obviously not for you, but there are still places on the planet where, like for example, quite a few of my videos are banned in Pakistan. For such a small amount of subscribers, relatively speaking, to the population of Pakistan, or even your old channel or your new one, I feel like I didn't know they were subscribing, the Pakistani government anyway, but it doesn't filter for the West. Certainly now knows that it's Islam seems to be based on like neuro-linguistic programming, fear, like a mafia, like you can't leave once you're in, and people are tricked in, as David said, and conned in. And with the big, like they have big road shows, and I feel like even the Muslims in the audience who sort of shuffle up and timidly ask their questions, they don't know either, because just there's some, like I've only had, well, years worth of looking into it, not a lifetime by any means. And I'd say 99% of this stuff, they feel at license to just make it up when the need arises, because they can't attack the Bible if they're explaining stuff to a Muslim, which is how they deal with Christian queries. But I don't, just like Mohammed, I don't think they saw the internet coming, really, and the access to information, which is good for us.
Yeah, and you're right as far as even Muslims not knowing about their religion. And I found that because early on, I had a couple of Muslim friends before I really got involved in criticizing Islam, and they were really knowledgeable, and they studied their sources, and we could have discussions about their sources and so on. So I assumed that Muslims were like that. And then just interacting with Muslims after I started debating and so on, I'd have a crowd of Muslims come up to me after a debate and start, oh, you're wrong about this, you're wrong about that. And I would start bringing up Quran verses and Hadith passages. And there could be 10 or 15 Muslims around me, and I could bring up 15 different verses, and not one of them would ever have any clue what I was talking about. And so it's like, it's kind of a mental myth in people's minds in the West, because they see Muslims dressing in a certain way and going to the mosque at a certain time. They think, they're really knowledgeable about things. And it's no, they have absorbed Islam's basic practices. They know the basic practices, but about the contents of their books, it's pretty rare to know anything what they're talking about. But that's what allows their guys to manipulate them so easily.
I think it's equivocal to maybe cultural Christians. You know when to stand up in church, when to sit down, when to say also with you, when to do the handshake, when Christmas is. But if somebody would say to you, like Mark chapter 7, what's it saying with your diet? Like it's not necessarily like you don't know it. You may know some verses when you're a kid, but like if you're not in it to win it, as it were, that's how it's going to be. And I find that I think there's maybe one Muslim at Speaker's Corner who I would be confident, because it's happened before in my interactions with him. He's very calm, he's very knowledgeable, and he doesn't ever like shy away or just throw out the Bible kind of thing. He'll say, oh yeah, it does say that. Like he's actually, I think, there to have some intelligent debate. Whereas I think maybe I don't know what decade it happened in, but populism is now it's just like a watchword. It's not really like with your debate with Mohammed Hijab. It's not what they're saying, it's how they're saying it and what that inspires the crowd to believe, which is, it's like in and out group preferencing. Like they're in the gang, so they will believe him over anybody else, regardless of their visual evidence, their dissonance, they'll just make it okay in their minds. Because I don't know who follows Ali. Like I was watching a few of his videos. I haven't stopped laughing. I won't die in my rage. I know that much, because I haven't got any. I may like pull some sort of muscle laughing, but I'm thinking me personally, I'm thinking, what is the appeal? Like, because I watched a video.
I've wondered this. I've wondered the same thing, because when I see like Andrew Tate, or even even Mohammed Hijab, it's like, okay, these guys, they're saying lots of pretty weird, pretty horrifying stuff. But I at least get it. I at least get it why people with a certain mindset would be drawn to that. But yeah, with Ali Dawah, I'm like, he sounds like a leprechaun. He's this little pipsqueak, and he's saying the absolute dumbest stuff anyone can imagine. I mean, when he's attacking the scientific miracles argument, and he's talking about, and so I argued that there was 7 ozone layers, but they was arguing that there's 6 ozone layers, and then we looked it up and we found out that there's 5 ozone layers, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Hold on, scientists found that out yesterday. Don't be such a hater, because science, the governing bodies that are called science, they found that out only minutes before Ali went on air, clearly.
And
Like we've all
it's so weird because in those situations you're like, okay, assuming you know nothing about Islam, how do you not realize this guy has absolutely no clue what he's talking about? And what's weird is it's like the followers get programmed to just accept what their guy says at any given moment. And it's weird because this goes all the way back to the time of Muhammad. And according to Islam, even goes back way before that. If you read the stories about the rebellion of Satan in the Quran, it's
yeah.
not Satan was this horrible, evil being and so on. It's they were not supposed to bow down to anything except Allah. But then one day Allah says, hey, I just made Adam, bow down to him. And everyone just bows down to Adam except Satan. He's like, wait a minute, I'm made of fire. He's made of clay. I'm not supposed to be bowing down to him. And Allah, like, no, I'll punish you. It's like, wait, punish you for what? For
doing his job. For being pious or whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like you pointed out on a different video, he's actually the savior, because if nobody sinned, Allah would have to wipe them all out and start again. So
yeah, he's the hidden, he's Islam's hidden hero. He's the one who, because Allah said that he would destroy everyone if we didn't sin, but we sinned because Satan tempted us to sin, and so he actually saved us. But notice the parallel. So you have that. Then you have Muhammad. Muhammad starts preaching. He preaches to his followers for a few years. Then you get the satanic verses where Satan verses saying that you could pray to 3 pagan goddesses. But but think about that. I mean, Muhammad, who's been preaching Tawheed and oneness to them, just steps out to his followers one day and says, now we can pray to 3 pagan goddesses. And all of his followers instantly bow down in honor of the 3 pagan goddesses revelation. It's like, wait, I mean, he could literally step out and
pursuit at this point. It's a charismatic movement. And furthermore, don't you know, say Iblis, has chucked every prophet under the bus. They've all done it. Don't be such a like, come on, who hasn't? Who hasn't spoken the words of Iblis when he puts
that was the justification of Surah 2252 that oh yeah, don't worry about that. All prophets deliver revelations from Satan from time to time. But so notice you've got even Allah, it's whatever he says to you at any given moment, even if it contradicts everything he's ever said, you just mindlessly obey. And then you get to Muhammad, and he can preach Tawheed, and he can come out the next day and say, guys, we're polytheists now, and everyone will go Alhamdulillah and bow down. And then you get to all these years later, 14 centuries of this, and one of these Dawah guys can say something that completely contradicts Islam. He can say something that completely contradicts science. He can say some of the most evil stuff. He can say, hey, having sex with an 11-month-old baby is fine as long as the baby gets precocious puberty and you get parental approval. And all their followers are just, oh, so wonderful, so powerful.
The thing is, though, that's what I thought to myself yesterday, is that every debate I've ever had really on 65.4, at some point, it's been attested to, but spuriously, that the woman who's potentially 9 has to be physically, psychologically, and emotionally ready, and those are all like at least social science terms. So if all the science is being kind of viewed dimly, like it just doesn't make sense to me. They're relying on like spurious science to back up what is supposedly God's word, which obviously changes every now and then, because who doesn't want a God who just said, you know what, I'll change your mind about that one. And
but on the and even on that
someone
example,
just said in the comments though, David, sorry, and I think they may be onto something. I think it was Kev Lowe was saying that people are attracted, like secretly, I believe it, it makes people feel good to, they don't have to brag about it, but to feel more intelligent than their fellow. So that's something that Ali certainly gives me. Like, I mean, I feel like Einstein when I watch his video. You know what I mean? Like
anyone would.
That's crawling under a rock could out philosophize him. His philosophy is shocking. Yeah. He was giving examples from like actual philosophy, but they're so missing the point and the mark of all of it. I'm going to clip them out, everyone. I've got to show you, because I can't be the only one going through this pain.
And what's the problem is, once you've fed the ego of a narcissist for years, So keep in mind, you know, in Islam, they tend to be attracted, and other people can be like this too. But it seems to be especially an issue in Islam where the more you're boasting about how great you are and thumping your chest, the more they'll rally around you. I mean, look, I mean, Andrew Tate says he's the greatest human being who's ever lived, and so on. They rally around him, even post tweets claiming to be
Don't worry
God.
about Jesus. Hang on,
Yeah.
don't worry about Jesus.
Yeah, or
Andrew
Muhammad.
Tate's here, everyone.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yes, and they rally around him and will basically worship him. But so these are the guys who tend to become popular because these are the guys they rally around. But after you've been feeding, you've taken someone like that and made him your idol and rally around him and feed his ego for years, you can't correct him about anything. Just look at when anyone corrects Ali Dawah. But in his discussion with AP, he tried to give a version of the contingency argument for the existence of God, and clearly had no clue what he's talking about. He heard some
the
of
infinite regress kind of.
with the contingency
Oh.
argument, but he clearly like had heard other people say it, but he has no idea, and he's clearly used to talking to people who
Just not actually listening.
Yeah, they won't understand it. They'll just, oh, he said a big word. He said necessity or something like that in contingency. So he must know what he's talking about. When if you're actually paying attention to what he's arguing, he's giving
it so hard though.
Yeah,
like
he's giving a completely like idiotic version of the argument. What was amazing is like there were, you know, a Christian, Cameron Bertuzzi, he actually tried to help Ali Dawah. He's like, hey, if you want to put it, let me outline a better contingency argument that you can use. And Ali Dawah flipped out on him. Like, how dare you? How dare you talk to me? How dare you? You're Christian with your doctrine of the Trinity. How dare you? Yeah. So it's like that. You can't, notice he's saying something stupid. He's being an embarrassment. And there's a reason a Christian was trying to help him. It's a Christian who agrees with the contingency argument and wants him, even though you're a Muslim. Hey, if you're defending the existence of God, I want you to do a good job. So he tries to help him out, but you can't even correct him. And so notice I can say all these idiotic things, the 7 ozone layers and all this stuff, and you can't even correct him. If a Christian contacted him and said, dude, you're talking about 7 ozone layers? Are you, come on, dude, get this right. How dare you, you dumb Christian? How dare you talk to me like that? It's like.
This Christian's going to tell him on Sunday, this one right here. The one about the hand, as far as your hand is in front of your face, the sea gets darker. I was thinking, but it can't be fathoms down because it's only as far as your hand is from your face. Like, but only Allah would know that, obviously, because
and some of and a bunch of the translations just are acting like it's a really dark night and a storm. Some of the translations, it's the darkness on the sea, not the darkness in the sea. The
darkness of a puddle in a very dark room is pretty dark. I mean, everything's pretty dark in a dark room. You know.
Oh, especially if you're in a storm. I mean, if you're in a storm in the dark, what in the world do you see? What in the world do you
Jesus
see?
was. Yeah. I mean, he was walking on water, so obviously, you know, Allah had to get in there.
Yeah, so this is just an epic disaster, and just like all the lies and deception that they built up for years, that's now crumbling. Now, so they've got that problem to deal with. Namely, all their arguments are being debunked, not just according to us, according to their own guys. Their arguments have been debunked. So now they're clinging to other things. But now what's the problem they have? That they're all clicked up around various Dawah guys, and they all hate each other and are attacked. Like Sajid is attacking Daniel, and Daniel's attacking Sajid, and Shamsi is attacking Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawah, and they're attacking him back, and so on. And they're all calling each other liars and evil people and so on. And yet each one of these groups and individuals has already rallied around himself, like this group of mindless followers who will just agree with him. And now they're all clashing. And it's just like, you guys are in trouble. You don't even realize it.
Well, the thing is, they've got no doctrine of any sort of love whatsoever, really. I mean, other than like human relations, you know, like they haven't got a God or any scripture that's telling them to be kind or peaceful or patient or, you know, the generosity maybe, but not of spirit, of intellect, of like, you know, helping your brother. What they've got, or at least the younger section of the Dawah, because the older ones that I spoke to, just one of them, the oldest one at Speaker's Corner, he was just flat out like, what? No, they're definitely scientific miracles. Come on now. Like, he's been preaching that stuff for ages. he looked as if he'd missed a meeting. He did like a little guilty look went across his face. But I
That's
think that with the popularity contest, the person like cult of personalities, it can't coexist. There can't be 12 leaders in one town. Like
and people don't realize it. I mean, the followers are the ones who are kind of causing this problem. So if you join, let's say Shamsi's group, or you join like Ali Dawah's group of followers and so on, you can't question anything he says because they'll immediately attack you. The group will attack you. How dare you? How dare you criticize him? Right? They can't do that, and so you end up with this group of yes men who just agree with you all the time. And the result that you end up having is you just keep saying stupider and stupider and stupider stuff because you have no reason to be careful. You have no reason to be careful in what you're saying if everyone's just going to agree with you anyway. And
the thing also, sorry, to consider is similar to like I don't know, like a husband, for example. If you have a husband who is abusive and beats you and stuff like that, as opposed to a regular, normal person, like loving and kind. If the abusive partner is nice for the whole day, that's something the lady would be saying, oh my gosh, he hasn't even beat me up to. Like it's a good thing. Whereas the nice guy, like, just being nice doesn't cut it if you're always nice kind of thing. So with Ali, I feel like he has to attain new depths of ignorance just to keep I don't know, like just to keep them chatting about something or
yeah, that's the thing. If psychologically your real goal in all of this is just attention, well, you could get attention by doing it. Like he's getting attention right now by the stupid things he's saying, and the damage he's doing, but that's still attention. So his brain is being satisfied with attention right now. And
it's like children who have tantrums because it's negative attention, but they're not interested in what form of attention. When he was, going to people's parents' houses and being threatening and doxing people, that like he's got no interest in anyone. I don't know, other than himself, it seems. Not that I know him that well, but just superficially, like observing, I don't think I've ever seen him do anything like decent or kind.
It's just funny because now that they've got all these absolute divas, and that's a good name for him, by the way, Ali Diva. Now that they've got all these divas running the Dawah scene, and they're conflicting with each other, and they're all competing for attention. Like who can get the most attention? That's the person who's going to get the biggest crowd around him, so he can shout everyone down. And but now that they're doing that, well, you're not done. You still have to compete for attention. So they're going to have to be like one-upping each other with the ridiculousness of the things they say.
Mohammed Hijab have already told me in one of my debates, and I'll put up the one that I haven't done because I was embarrassed. But I said something about the Quran. He said, listen, forget the Quran. And I was like, I'd love to, but there's so many people going to hell. I can't forget it. It's locked in there. But yeah, he didn't want to talk about Islam at all. Like he wants to philosophize and start talking pop psychology, but it's telling that none of them, I don't think, other than the guy with integrity that I mentioned, ever want to actually discuss Islam. They don't want to defend their prophet because, it's obvious why not.
Yeah, notice, I mean, if you were really confident in Islam and converting the world to Islam, there are two main questions. Was Muhammad a prophet, and is the Quran the word of God? That's it. That's what they should be like every single day going off. Let's debate Muhammad every single day until you all see the evidence. They don't want to touch Muhammad. They don't want to go near that topic. They don't want to put any of this on the table. And now it's just now Ali's latest argument is apparently we're so intolerant that this is going to draw people to Islam. I mean, he said that in his new video. So who cares about all the old arguments? What people are going to be drawn to is the intolerance of Islam because we're proud of that. And guys, right there, just if you've seen the video, I'm not exaggerating. That's exactly.
No, I mean, his voice is. I mean, you do a better Ali than Ali does at the moment. So, but yeah, it's literally. He said it doesn't even matter that the scientific miracles have been debunked. Again, when were they debunked? Who debunked them? I'd like to see the evidence, please, even though we all know they're nonsense. But then it doesn't even matter. He already knows that the preservation of the Quran is out of the window, gone, because his best buddy sorted that one out for us all. Like, so, and they're
And
just
that
less
was
and
his
less.
partner hijab there. It's
That's
like
what I'm saying. The
these
two of
guys
them
are
are a dream team for Christianity.
dream
Like,
team for
even for
destroying this stuff.
atheism. Like,
Yeah, just I think it was last night when we were talking about this. It seems like, I don't have some specific number, but it seems like 10 years of work for us is about the equivalent as far as its impact as like just one of them finally admitting that we're right. Like you could spend years arguing, guys, there's not one Quran. There's not one Quran. Their followers just don't believe you. The Muslims don't believe anything we're saying. Even if we're putting things in front of their faces, they still have trouble believing it. It takes so much time. And all of a sudden,
because it's
Sheikh,
programming.
yeah. But Sheikh Yasser Qadi all of a sudden will say, okay, there are holes in the narrative. And all of a sudden they realize that there are different Qurans. And similarly with, Zakir Naik and Ahmed Didat, they make all these scientific arguments and we spend years debunking them. And then all of a sudden Ali Dawah, yeah, it's been debunked. And at first his followers like, could you clarify this? Because this is bad.
Are you
And
telling me, let me just confirm, are you telling me that sperm does not come from the backbone or the neck? Like, because I need to know this stuff. Because there are medical doctors out there, Zakir Naik, one of them, who needs to know. It's a need to know basis, surely. Like, is that the case, David?
Well, what it's talking about is the blood supply that ultimately leads to that is flowing through here, and so ultimately, and
so
even
it
though it
could
says
flow
fluid
through my
gushing,
street door as well. It could gush through my street door from any source.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm happier with that then, at least.
So right now we're in the middle of a time when they're admitting that their Dawah of the past has been a complete failure. But the creepiest thing in all of that, I mean, besides the
creepiest thing is Ali talking to camera, but please continue.
But it's awesome that, Ali Dawah basically stood up and said, I'm going to end Zakir Naik's whole career, because that was Zakir Naik's entire career, basically. I'm just going to end his entire career.
Like a faithful Muslim who spent all this time trying to bring those who Allah's misguided into the fold.
Yeah. The creepy part, probably the creepiest part, to me, is that Ali Dawah was saying that Allah used those bogus scientific miracles to draw him to Islam. And so what he's saying is that Allah uses deception to bring people to Islam. So notice the deception was good because it's what brought him to Islam. But notice it's Allah using the deception of the da'is who are lying. Allah uses that to really bring people to Islam. So what Ali Dawah is saying there is the lies are okay. Allah will use our lies to bring people to Islam.
Maybe that's how Muhammad got his foot in the door. Maybe, maybe this is Allah's repeat performance. Like maybe he just uses people who, got a quick, well, I say quick, but
you find the same idea in the Quran in Surah 8 when Allah gives Muhammad a dream saying that the approaching Meccans are there's only going to be a few of them. And so this encourages Muhammad's followers his dream from Allah encourages Muslims to go out and fight. And then they go out there and they find out they're completely outnumbered. And then Allah tells them later, I tricked you into believing there's only a few to get you to fight because I knew you'd be a bunch of cowards if I didn't. So I had to trick and deceive you into doing what I want. But it's like, okay, so you're dealing with this cosmic trickster, this cosmic deceiver. And the result of that theologically was Abu Bakr saying, if I had 1 foot in paradise, I would still fear Allah's deception. And meaning, for all I know, Allah is going to just psych, now I'm kicking you out.
Maybe there aren't mile-long erect penises. Maybe there aren't thousands and thousands of little boys.
That could just be Allah deceiving you into thinking all of this.
That could just be like the spiel to get you in the door, and then you're stuck in that contract. Hell doesn't sound like that much fun.
Yeah, you get there and you find out, nope, sorry, you're not even going. It was crazy because Abu Bakr was one of the few people that was actually guaranteed paradise by Muhammad. And so when Abu Bakr says that he would, even if he had 1 foot in paradise, he'd still be worried that Allah's going to, just cast him into hell or something. You don't know because he's a deceiver. That what he's actually saying there is, for all I know, that when Muhammad was guaranteeing me paradise, this is just Allah using Muhammad to deceive me into doing what I want. Because guess what? Allah has deceived me through our prophet before when he tricked us into believing that there's this tiny small army. Yeah, he's good at it. And so this is creepy stuff. And
if we just juxtapose that for like just a hot second, with Yahweh. Like there's promises and promises and promises throughout the Old and the New Testament. Like I'll remember your sins no more. Like he'll see Christ in your place. It's if you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth, you will be saved. There's no like maybe and not really. Got ya. Oh, idiot. Like there's there's mockery of the priests of Baal, and there's like puns and plays on words and stuff, but there's not much God like being anything other than perfectly righteous, perfectly merciful, just love just goes all the way through it. Even when he's wrathful, it's because of the hurt that's caused by by the curse and by the actions. Like there's no human, like his ways are beyond, but like Allah just seems so human and not even that
he
much
seems
of a human you'd want to drink with. Like
he seems more like Loki from like Norse mythology. Like
how dare
yeah,
you? I like those myths, and I like the Marvel film.
And notice, even like we're talking about Allah being a deceiver, but Allah will deceive even his own, his own prophets, the people who follow the prophets. That's what I mean. If Allah will trick and deceive the followers of Jesus into believing that he died on the cross, how do you know he's not deceiving you every moment of every day? And they'll respond. Muslims will respond to this stuff with, but look, in the story. The story of Micaiah, God sent them a deceiving spirit. A deceptive spirit stood up and said, "Hey, I'll go and deceive them." And God says, "Go." But look, what does God do? God sends the true prophet to say, "Hey, there's a deceptive spirit over there." God sends a true prophet, a prophet of Yahweh, to say those guys are false prophets. And here's what happened:
Satan permission to go to Job, but it doesn't mean it's his will that Job. Like, do you see what I mean? Like, because I've had that exact argument about the lying spirit, but if you look at it, God's not sending the spirit. The spirit approaches and says, "This is what I'm going to do," and God's like, "Go on it." Like that doesn't mean, this is my plan. Go and do it, because.
Notice again, God sends the true prophet. God sends the true prophet to say, those guys are false prophets. They are being guided by a deceptive spirit.
Anyway, it's what always happens. The Bible very rarely starts out on a blessing, or any of the stories. It starts off, even Jesus, when he spoke to the Pharisees, especially, there'll be the bad things going on, and then there'll be God shining a light on it, and then this is the right way to do it. Like it's basic, like it's not basic, that's not the word, simplistic in as much as even humans can understand it, like when it's illustrated, unless they're using it to defend the Quran.
It's basically a core idea here is theology matters. If you worship a God who brags about being the best of deceivers, don't be shocked when your da'is all end up being compulsive liars who believe that lying is perfectly acceptable as long as you're getting people into Islam. And you can see the difference. I mean, there have obviously been Christians with, professing Christians with very bad moral behavior and so on, but they have to hide that stuff. They have to hide it. You can't just be.
I don't think any Christians are saying anything other than we're sinners who are redeemed by the righteousness of Christ. Obviously I'm thinking of a certain few like scandals, but
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking of scandals. Yeah.
The onus is for us to forgive and to, if they're still alive, to try and, because we can all empathize with doing the wrong thing, even when the right thing is right there. Whereas Allah seems to be saying you can smile in their face and hate in your heart, i.e., be a murderer, because he's pretending to be the God of the Bible. You can keep your mouth shut. You can say no. You can denounce Islam if your life depends on it, or if your wife's just caught you out with another chick who's more than your fourth wife. I don't know, like how many. But you're always allowed to just duck and dive and get your way out of it, because it seems temporal in nature. It's not about eternity. It's about sort yourself out right now. Get what you need right now, which is such a human thing, which makes me think, shock horror, that not real.
Yeah. And I mean, Christians, we can't even imagine being in this situation where
It
Like
must be heartbreaking.
we find out that all of our apologists and so on have been lying to us for all these years to trick us into believing things, which that's exactly what you have. I mean, when they started saying one Quran, that's just a flat out lie. It's not like, oh, you're interpreting things differently. It's a lie. And then Zakir Naik and Ahmed Dida, they built their careers on
For
lies.
years and years and years. Yeah,
And
exactly.
no, and the lies are being exposed. But go to their followers right now. You line up 1,000 Zakir Naik followers and say, look, all the things he's been telling you for years have been lies. And even new Muslim apologists and dais are acknowledging that they are lies, that he's been lying to you to get people into Islam. Does that bother you even slightly? 1,000 out of 1,000 Zakir Naik fans will have absolutely no problem with any of it. They've just been conditioned that it's fine. That as long as you're getting people to Islam,
But that's a pyramid
good.
salesman technique. That's not about eternal. That's not showing people the way to anything other than a death cult. Literally, you're in and then you can't leave. Doesn't matter. But you signed your name on the. It doesn't matter what I told you. Now that you're in, you're going to suffer with me, and we'll all die if we try and leave. Like, and then for Ali to confidently assert, even though, like, if any Christian were to give these vague, like, you know, exhortations to murder, basically, they'd be so, quickly off of YouTube. But he's got the balls, I guess. I mean, I'm confident he probably hasn't, but he's got the gall to call for the killing of apostates, people who've actually woken up. And I watched him today sit here and say that he came to Islam. This is the kicker for me. I love this. I want it on audio for my ringtone. He came to Islam because of the logical, the philosophical, he doesn't care if you're a professor. He doesn't care how atheist you are. That doesn't even make sense. He doesn't care who you are. He's been convinced by the logic. This is the guy who probably can't spell it, but
well, he also just said in his video that he was brought to Islam by the scientific miracles that he now regards as what he absolute nonsense. He calls it absolute nonsense, and he believes that Allah used that. So, but it's just hilarious to say that that the guy talking about 7 ozone layers is guided by logic and so on.
But the clue is in the ozone layer. It's always mentioned as a singular because, spoiler, it's just a one layer.
That's the point. He's talking about 7 ozone layers. Like, oh, here's the first ozone layer, and then there's another ozone. It's like the dude has no clue what he's talking about, and none of his followers are going to call him. Notice how easy it would be. Hey, Ali, there aren't. I'm a student. I study this stuff, and there aren't 7 ozone layers. Stop embarrassing us. But they can't. There's alhamdulillah. Great point, brother Ali.
I think he's already embarrassed. Like, I don't know about you, but when I watched the unedited Christian Prince, I had to keep stopping it because it was like the worst thing I ever watched, and I can't even stand cringe comedy. And I was like peeking through my fingers. I thought it was end times because Ali seemed like the sensible one, like he wasn't spitting on his own floor and abused it. Like, how much more could that? If I was I'd be so. I saw an interview of a woman speaking to Hatun, and she came out of Islam, but she was saying the anxiety of a genuine. Like, I'm not even sure some of these boys believe. They just believe that they can get something from, spouting the company line. But this woman was like genuine in as much as she said, you just can't know if Allah's pleased with you. You just can't know. No, like, it's the constant anxiety of, am I pleasing him? Am I doing the right thing? It's sad. It's a massive joke, but we can't forget that there are people like genuinely enthralled in it, and because to admit that they have been not duped because they may have been born in, but that means that their mother, their grandmother, their great grandmother, like all the way back, are in hell potentially. Or it's a difficult thing. Like, I admire anyone who, even in private, can admit this all seems like a bit of,
Yeah, there is lots of psychological pressure on remaining in, even if you don't have the Sharia penalties, even if you're not in an area that would have Sharia penalties for apostasy. But if you look now, you see a parallel with what Ali Dawah was saying And he was talking about Andrew Tate, because it was obvious that Andrew Tate's his reasons for converting to Islam were all completely idiotic. And Ali Dawah was responding to that and saying, but I was brought into Islam with stupid reasons too. But now, then I found out how great it is and such. Yeah. So his position is get people into Islam, even if you have to lie and deceive them. But then, then you'll stay for whatever else it might be.
Because you like your head on your shoulders.
Yeah, so you see this over and over again. Like if they get a convert, let's say a woman convert, it's okay. Let's fill your head with all these stupid ideas and the scientific miracles and perfect preservation stuff. Get into Islam, and instantly, let's get you married. Let's make sure you have as many kids as possible, really quick, and you're enmeshed in the Muslim community, so that leaving Islam becomes something that will destroy your family and destroy your relationship with your husband and kids and so on. So that, in other words, they get you in through deception, and then they say, let's have massive psychological pressure so that you never even consider leaving Islam and so on. And I mean,
you see, programming cult members is tricky enough, and that could be a cult of like 20, 50, maybe even this the political narratives that we've got going on, but that the well-observed tendencies to see everywhere the problem that you've been indoctrinated into, or the systematic theology of it, and then to view anybody who's trying to help you to see even a tiny bit of clarity as the enemy, because they're trying to push you back into the emotional vulnerability that was instilled in you by the person who groomed you into the cult in the first place. Just Satan's he's busy. I don't know, apart from changing his name and getting 2 arms and a shin going, he never sleeps. He's just on them all the time. It's not impressive, but it's astonishing that he's that busy.
Yeah, it's just, it's amazing. You can listen to your da'is for decades, and then another one can step up and say, that's all lies, but it's good that we were lied to. And they'll go, oh, okay, yeah, great. And it's like, wait, what? You guys just you said that's okay?
Yeah.
I'd be horrified. The entire Christian community would be horrified if that happened in our community. And in Islam, it's just totally fine. It's weird.
The thing is, there's a difference between God can bring goodness out of evil. He can, all things work to the good of those who love. That's a different kettle of fish. You might, I don't know, be stranded on a desert island, find a Bible, whatever it is. There may be disaster at the beginning of the journey, but to imagine that God's going to go, do you know what? Just tell a few hundred lies for 10 years. We'll see who we get through the door, and then we'll tell him it doesn't even make any sense because it's about the inner man. It's nothing to do with that's what Ali said. The proof he gave, I can't even recant the story. Allah told someone he was going to die in unbelief. Because the dude had the chance to say the Shahada as he was on his way out of this life, and he didn't, that's proof for Ali that Islam is true. Because the guy didn't lyingly say the Shahada. But he admits by his own logic that it's utterly irrelevant whether you say the Shahada. Don't say it to anyone anyway. It's gibberish. But it doesn't matter because you're allowed to lie about it to save your life. So it's meaningless. It's what's in your heart. God knows that. God says there's going to be people calling out saying, look, we did this, we did that. And it doesn't matter because do you know what I mean? It's a spiritual thing. It's just not about your actions even. It's about your intent.
So the glaring question here is, so all of their, it's not
what meditation is Ali on? No.
Yeah, okay, it's we're not saying some random Muslim is a compulsive liar or something like this. It's all of their da'is are just swimming in the lies that they've been told, that they've been telling for years. And it's and they use the lies to get people into Islam, and then it's all mass manipulation to keep them in Islam. And it's does the truth need this? Is this what the true religion needs? It needs, in order to prop it up, it needs an endless series of lies and cult tactics.
The religion of peace with the intimidation tactics and the murder, if you leave. No, I don't think it does.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's like them. It's like Muhammad Hijab saying he was in an interview with Jordan Peterson, something like that. The most important thing for us is telling the truth and keeping our word. Like, what planet do you live on, man?
The
It's like
imaginary one.
it's ridiculous.
The
But
one.
it's the same thing with the religion of peace. It's like we're gonna be calling for violence against you. There're gonna be endless terrorist attacks, and in response, we want you calling us the religion of peace at all times.
It's intolerance at such a level that it comes at it from like some metaphysical level. It's like Orwellian doublespeak. It's so obvious. I think the fifth time I saw the Prime Minister of my country at the time, a day after a terrorist attack, an Islamic terrorist attack, obviously it doesn't matter if it's somebody else doing it, but coming out and reiterating, nobody asked her, that there's a peaceful religion, everyone. And this is a lone wolf nutcase. Like, you're like, what are you like? Obama said that I think the future doesn't belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam while he was leader of the free world. You're like, oh, really? Like, I don't know what they hope to, like, other than money. Like, sure, if you're getting paid or you're being, blackmailed or something, like as politicians are. But
well, again, if
you can't believe it.
Notice the Dawah community is becoming entirely populated by narcissists. So if you want attention, that's a great place to be. If you want a bunch of mindless followers who are going to agree with you no matter what, which is what a narcissist will want, they've got a spot with you in the Dawah community. And you find the same thing online, that people who, I mean, I would say are obvious grifters are all of a sudden saying, I'm thinking about converting to Islam because of its powerful arguments. And they instantly get 50,000 new followers cheering them on. And so on. Yeah.
Don't you know all these famous people? They've got Hitler vouching for Mohammed. I've got the leaflet somewhere. Literally, they quoted Hitler in order to say, this is why Mohammed's like such a gem. And I'm like, there's nothing they won't stoop to. Yeah, it's literally, I don't even know. Like Jesus says, you'll be hated, you'll be beaten, you'll be thrown in prison. Eventually, you may be killed. They will hate you. And everyone's like, right, where do we sign up, Jesus? Like, but this is the opposite. It's about making people love you to such a degree, to the obsessive nature of like a teenage girl, that they're not actually reading the Quran, listening to the words that are being spouted, and they'll come out with, but we love Jesus. And I'm sure that most of them have never stopped to consider, like it's just programmed, like it's literally parrot fashion, what they've heard other people say.
And this happens very quickly, because you can get a brand new convert like Muhammad, like Andrew Tate or Sneeko, and you start instantly seeing them regurgitate the exact same Dawah talking points when they still have no clue about anything to do with Islam or Christianity, but they just start parroting the exact same.
And Arabic phrases as well. That's always a kicker for me. Like someone 25 minutes later will be alhamdulillah and all of that, and you're just like, really?
Yeah, really? I guess the encouraging part is thanks to the internet, now the Dawah lies are unraveling much faster than they used to. I mean, because think about it, they just started admitting that there are more than one Quran. That just happened.
Allah isn't Yahweh as well. That was a big one.
And now the scientific miracles has been debunked, because Ali Dawah is becoming. He's becoming the popular
authority.
He's becoming the popular example of this being debunked. But Hamza Tsortsis from IERA, that's Muhammad Hijab's other partner. He was saying this for like the last 10 years. So it's getting out now that, hey guys, notice Ali Dawah says, why aren't other people making videos about this? And he goes, because they all know it's been debunked. So he's saying the Dawah community, all these da'is, they know that the argument is bad.
They all know.
Yeah, and he's just the one with the guts to say it. And so I don't know. These are fun times.
No, I bet none of them want to get arrested with Ali. Like, he's just throwing them right under the bus. He's like, well, I've been lying, but so is everybody else. Like, it's irrelevant.
Yeah. So now Ali says his the new case for Islam is just going to be intolerance. They're going to go after. They're going to target everyone.
You can beat your wife with a toothbrush, like a giant toothbrush, like a game show kind of thing. Maybe you can you can have 4 of them. So at least like a couple of beatings a day. You can honor kill people who leave if they're family members, or just random strangers, people you want to bully on the internet, stuff like that. But the thing that I'm finding interesting is that there's been like some sort of sycophantic relationship between certain areas of the political narrative and Islam for quite a while. But if just intolerance is now being given as the main selling point, at least by Ali, if that were to become mainstream or a talking point, like I'm sure it will, but I can't see how they're gonna like reimagine this union of like I don't know, secularism and Satanism in effect.
No, they're about to. They've been protected for years by politicians and the media and the entire education system in Hollywood. And and the deal was, hey, we'll protect you. We'll promote mass Muslim migration, and we will protect Muhammad and the Quran from criticism. Anyone who disagrees with you, anyone who points out a terrorist attack, anyone who does any of this, we'll call them Islamophobes and bigots and racists. All we want,
just a few gays off the top of the building, but don't don't go overboard.
And all we want in return is your allegiance to our political ideals. And now,
how could you have allegiance to literally? I mean, for all Islam is a whole crock of nonsense, literally absolute nonsense, to quote Ali. There's still stuff that's like polluted, like there is man and woman, there is I don't know, slave and there is free and not free. There's just ultimate, and what's the word? No, absolutes. Mm-hmm. Whereas now there are no absolutes because it's all about how you feel about something on any given day and how you define the word. So it's literally like a madhouse.
Yeah, people thought that, hey, if we spend decades protecting them, then they will be loyal to us.
They won't get us when they become
powerful. They'll be loyal to us in return. And now they're finding out, oops, that was all a show. They didn't really agree with us at all. It was a matter of convenience. And now they're going to completely turn on all of us. But the Muslims, and Ali Dawah and so on, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to do that. And we're going to show that we're the intolerant ones. And that's going to rally people around us, not realizing you had a pretty sweet deal there with being protected. No matter, I mean, you could literally have a terrorist going in, blowing up, quoting Allah, saying, this is why I'm killing all these people. And all the media would have to say in response is, don't you dare say a word about this. If you do, we're going to call you an Islamophobe. So we'll attack you for pointing out why this guy's killing stuff, even according to him. And so they had a pretty sweet deal there, and now they're going to lose that. And I just have to say, if they lose the protection of the media and the education system and Hollywood and so on, to where it becomes completely acceptable to make fun of Muhammad, to point out the things Muhammad has done, to point out Muhammad's teachings about slaughtering people, if they lose that protection and it becomes acceptable, you thought there was an avalanche of apostasy already. So you haven't seen it. I've been waiting for years on this. It's like you need to reach a certain tipping point where it becomes where Muhammad is actually up for open, honest discussion. Open, honest discussion about Muhammad and his teachings. And we haven't been there yet. We're still not there.
Hate speech. That's literally here. I mean, hate speech is a nonsense anyway, but you can literally just quote the Quran. No eisegesis, exegesis, no funny voices, no silly hat, nothing. Just literally paste it in type. There's a woman here arrested for putting a poster up that said woman, adult, human, female. And if the Quran, like, it's hate speech to literally just say, this is what it says. Like, that's got to, that tells you something. Like, anything that's in that much secrecy, but out in the open, but just protect, like, with a willful blindness, it can't last, because the media want to portray that you alone in your living room must be a bigot, because you're thinking, hold on, is it still real life? Like, surely that's someone being thrown off a building. Surely that's not, but they want to isolate and minimize your a participation in any conversation and make it seem that everybody else accepts this stuff. But eventually the tipping point comes, as you say, when people realize, hold on a minute. No.
Yeah, even on social media, like when I would get a ban from YouTube, the explanation would be, you have said something offensive towards a protected class, and it's like, wait, Islam is a protected class, and those were the protected classes: LGBTQ stuff and Muslims. Those are the
It was
protected
supposed to
classes.
be innate
It's like,
characteristics. It was supposed to be stuff that you're born with, so you can't help being a woman. You can't help being, like.
Yeah, they did. They put Islam in that category. Your immutable characteristics,
Except
and
for when you leave or join.
and they're a protected class and so on. So, but that's the protection they had. If all of a sudden they break all their alliances and they no longer have that protection, so that social media companies and again journalists and so on are actually, it would be one thing if they just said, okay, we're not protecting this anymore, go ahead and have at it. It'd be something even more extreme if they're like, we need to actively go after this
Well, they'll have to
ideology.
protect their own reputations. What they're going to have to, the way they'll have to play it is they've been duped. They were only doing their honest reporting, duty, and the management said this. So then they'll, I guess, knowing at least the British media, they'll have to make a play that, now that they know the truth, they're going to do the right thing and expose it all. But I've noticed that Christianity has been less censored and less, unlikely to be in any suggested streams or any viewing that I do. And I've seen some, excuse me, like Twitter is obviously massive and has a massive political and religious, influence. And now that that's seemingly, for free speech at least, or not banning people for such silliness, I think it's only really a matter of time, because they influence governments, they influence, what are they? The people who set the agendas and the narratives. So, touch wood, we can all set our clocks, and might be something else to talk about soon.
So, I mean, Islam's been here for 14 centuries, and looks like we may be the generation that gets to see it all come crumbling down.
The thing is, I thought after I spoke to you the other night, I was like, yeah, that's true. And then I thought, oh, doesn't that mean end times? No Bible reference, but I was thinking something that massive and that innately anti-Christ to come crashing down. You think, oh, it's going to be replaced by something pretty final, maybe. But I'm not really an optimist in terms of other than Jesus. So, but then again, we've got so much fun politics to be getting on with.
Mm-hmm.
That is, yeah. So I think, right, does anybody have any brief questions for David? I mean, or me, but obviously you see me all the time. If you do, write them now or forever hold your pizza. I guess you can at me for the questions and then I'll see them more clearly. What else do I want to say? Tomorrow with AP, I'll be, I'm going to have some video evidence to show you all some of the reasons you shouldn't listen to a word Ali says. And then David and I, hopefully within a couple of weeks, will be back again, disseminating and just dissecting. I mean, this is just one guy, and I've got some hijab stuff. But it's just, I mean, there are billions to go through, but luckily, like David said, narcissists will fight their way to the top of the attack. I mean, look at Mojang. Can you So yeah, the bigger they are, the more damage it does when they're exposed to be utter idiots. So
and think about the situation they're in, because an example is like Sajid versus Daniel Hakikachu, or Sajid when he calls out Ali Dawah, and you notice, if you see Ali Dawah, you see him getting bigger and bigger, and you see him spouting some really, really horrible ideas. Or Daniel, hey, an 11-month-old baby, as long as it's precocious puberty and so on, you think, I have to say
precocious is precocious. Don't. Yeah. I would love to talk to these.
The point is you've got these guys and they're getting more and more popular, and you're realizing, if you're a Muslim, you're realizing this is very bad for Islam. If Islam becomes the religion that is known for promoting child marriage and stuff. So you want to speak out against it. But as soon as you speak out against it, it's, you're causing division, brother, by speaking against this guy. And it's like, what am I supposed to do? So from Sajid's perspective, what am I supposed to do here? If this guy keeps getting bigger and bigger, he's spreading all this horrible stuff. And the bigger he gets, the more damage he's going to do when he comes.
Yeah, but maybe Allah's using that. as a way to get another load
Yeah.
shipped in. But there's a
So
question for you. Why are you such a nerd? I'm hoping that's said with affection. It's from House of Hikmah.
no, it is. That's a little kid who he like
Oh,
he
they're
wants.
up quite late. Oh, I wonder if their mum knows.
Yeah, he has like a toy review channel or something like this, but he comes around and harasses me because I make
So
fun of
by
him.
nerds, do you mean like one of the biggest Christian YouTubers like in history? I guess is that the new definition? Because we can just define speech however we like now.
No,
So
he's just calling that because I called an actual nerd, Mike Winger. He's an actual nerd. I called him a nerd, and then so House of Hickma's a little kid who's a fanboy of Mike Winger, so he's calling me a nerd in response.
okay, Troy English, if I could breathe, would be nice. Is asking, what do I think about the Bangladeshi cleric? I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Who was in Britain? So he was Troy. He was able to speak in Birmingham, which is unsurprising to me. And I posted the story at that point. But then I was surprised that once it was brought to the attention by a media company to the London university or campus where he was going to go, they refused him on grounds of they'd quoted the terrorism police in the first interview, and they just put the same blanket statement: "We do not support extremism," and da da da. But they did bar him from speaking. But that doesn't mean. I mean, there was no actual condemnation of his. What he said is that not only apostates, he said anyone who mocks the prophet and therefore is a disbeliever. I don't know if he said beheaded or just your average murder, but I think that for one, he's not a British citizen, so freedom of speech doesn't really come into it. But two, going to an education establishment, I'm old fashioned. I feel like education should be, I don't know, educational. What I think of him is he should hurry up, pack his bags. He's not even going to be bothered to get duty free because it's expensive here. So, like, bye, mate. I don't know if that's what you meant, Troy, but my view is what a cretin, I guess. Like, just peddling hate, literally, and getting paid for it and getting flown around. And people like Robert Spencer can't come in. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be a standard of hatefulness, and it can't be set by people who are like wholly biased. So I don't know if you heard of that, David, but yeah, we just had a literal hate preacher and advocate for murder. Yeah, he was allowed to speak at one college, and then he tried it in London and wasn't able. But I'm sure he's still enjoying a hotel somewhere and at liberty and not being questioned for his comments. So yeah, but yeah, let's talk about Downer. Right, Nigel Farage and GB News. Oh, he's gone back to Bangladesh. What a shame. Oh, I made him a cake as well. Right, last orders, everybody, because #reasons. Oh, there is a question from. Okay, let's read it first after the nerd debacle. Okay, so they're asking you, David, have you got a new channel? And it was amazing that you gave your old channel to Hatton, and it was a very Christian thing to do. So yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple of places where I post. Like the next place I'll be posting is Apologetics Roadshow. But yeah, my stuff is kind of spread around, kind of based on the chances of material being
Algorithmically
targeted. So yeah, the idea was on my old channel, it had just become I couldn't even consistently post because they were banning me between 1 and 3 times per month. So the theory was, yeah, at first I was just going to delete it, and then someone suggested giving it to Hatun. That was a good idea, or giving it away. And then I was like, oh, I offered it to Hatun. But I was thinking maybe if I deleted everything or almost everything, that maybe it wouldn't be targeted in the same way. Maybe, someone could have a clean start. But apparently she still has problems. So the channel is apparently just marked for constant
Elon Musk
harassment.
was saying that when he took over Twitter, I saw the Babylon Bee interview him. It's quite interesting. He said that when he took it over, even though he's not really the tech guy, like the computer code, he said they found programs or code running that really shouldn't have been there anyway, but just to be able to target certain, phrases and links and stuff like that. So, and also there's the human input, like literally. They never give me a reason. They just say because promotes hate, and they don't even tell me which video. just promotes hate and glorifies such and such. And yet, when
Yeah,
you ask, like,
and it seemed to be
why?
it seemed to be borderline random in the sense that I would make a video
Yes,
and I
it
say,
does
"Oh,
seem
okay,
like
that
you've got one
yeah,
that's really similar, and they don't care. Yeah, for
no,
me, it's
I mean, it could be like a completely, by my standards, a really gentle,
yeah.
innocuous video that they would come after. Anyway, so the plan, the new plan is to have it scattered around so that, because back then, if they would shut me down for something, or if they even suspend me for a week or 2 weeks or something like that, then everything's grinding to a halt. Whereas, yeah, now it's okay. The really sensitive issues, those be over here, and this will be over here, and this will be over here, and so on. So yeah, it's basically, yeah, it's not as convenient to find as everything being on one channel, but much less likely to be
In this age of
banned.
convenience, I feel like
Yeah,
typing something twice, it's no real hardship.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like changing your search terms or
yeah. But
uh,
I have to say, it's actually it's more fun, kind of like tearing stuff down and then starting over and stuff, and
speak for
trying fun things.
yourself.
I'm thinking I might just keep doing this. I might like build up a channel for a year and then give it away, build up a channel for a year, give it away,
Okay,
build up a
I'm
channel
next
for a
in
year.
line, by the way. Okay, I'll have the 750,000 subscribers. Thanks. Last question for you, and it's from well, it's for both of us, from Kev Lowe. He's asking you, what do you think about muscular Christianity, which is a Bobism or a descriptor of Bob's? And also, I'm being asked, oh, is it? Will I ever do muscular Christianity? Kev, how dare you? What are you saying that I'm a puss? Anyway, David, what do you think about uh, having more of a proactive, I guess, like what does Bob say? Not wimpish, like like a stronger version of Christianity. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I agree. It depends, because someone could say, "What do you think about muscular Christianity?" And they mean like a Christianity that's going to go around
Bodybuilder.
killing people, yeah, or like Christians are going to go around, we need to have the Inquisition or something like that, or but yeah, just Christians have definitely veered way too, especially in the West, have veered way too far in the area of being so concerned. Like, your biggest concern is the thought of offending people. And
Yeah.
it's like, where did you guys get that from? And
It's
you
a
can of course, find, you can
misconception.
find Bible verses and so on, about speaking gently and so on. But you can't ignore Jesus saying, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites, you whitewashed tombs, and like fools, blind guides, you snakes."
Yeah.
You can't separate it from that. And that there is a time, and it's just so weird
There's
that
seasons, aren't there? Like even in one day, there's a time to be really, you feel your way through it, or with the Holy Spirit, you know when someone's going to respond. I do anyway. To like humor breaks a lot of barriers down. Like if you can get your point across, but not be aggressive to the point. Me personally, I think that if I know when I'm angry, I could hear the words, but I couldn't give two, not even one flying one for them, because I can feel my ears pumping and I'm just so angry, and the cortisol's like, being dumped into my just into my system, and you can't hear anything that you can respond to. So I think that there's a gentle approach. Jesus always gave them it like straight, but then he would also give them the correct way of doing it. He wasn't just saying, "Oh, you're an idiot, go away." Like he was telling them, "It's this important. This is your eternity. Like this, righteous
there
anger is
was
fine."
a there was a book years ago, and the writer said, he said, "Who was Jesus more like? Was he more like Mother Teresa, or William Wallace?" And he
Well, he
said,
wasn't a little Indian woman, was he? I mean, I think I'd have noticed in the
"Yeah." So
text.
he says, what was Jesus more like?" And he says, "The answer is that depended on what kind of person you were." He said, if you were a social outcast and you were oppressed and so on, he was more like Mother Teresa. He
Yeah.
said, if you were a hypocritical religious leader, he was coming at you to pick a fight,
Yeah.
like William Wallace. And
Because it's still loving, because it's the love for the sheep that are being shepherded in the wrong
yeah,
direction. Like
and
it's still loving to rebuke.
even the people you're rebuking. I mean, the people who think that, like if you rebuke someone, you're being unloving. It's like,
If you don't love
when
them, let them
Jesus
believe the lies. Let them
yeah,
get on with
when
it. Like,
Jesus was blasting the scribes and Pharisees, was that unloving? I would say no. He was telling those guys exactly what they needed to hear. He was telling them the best thing that he could get across to them. He was telling them exactly what they needed to hear, and that's not unloving. Telling people what they need to hear. And there are a lot of people in the world today who need a
So you've been
stern
accused.
rebuke.
Well, you've been accused, like I have, and threatened. I mean, I've been threatened less than you, I think, but still pretty terminal. And I can't get my head because I think if I didn't have a love, I mean, I've got no love for Islam, but for Muslims, I'd be sitting with my feet up,
Yeah.
like just having a cigarette. That's it, a gin and tonic potentially if it was after 7 p.m. Like, I wouldn't be going and risking like physical altercations because I didn't care about people, you know, like it.
Yeah,
In the right circumstances, passivity is you're letting someone walk off a cliff, like, you know.
yeah, if you're following the world's, I mean, the most obvious false prophet in history, and you're building your entire life around the idea that the creator of the universe is obsessed with you eating, walking, talking, thinking, and
Don't forget
dressing,
sex.
and going to the bathroom like a 7th century Arab caravan robber. If
Don't have
that's
3 stones or
yeah,
2 stones. I can't remember, but
yeah,
make sure.
yeah, you got an odd number. You have to use an odd number of stones, and he's obsessed with stuff like
Silly
that.
me.
Yeah, but I mean, like if I did not like you, if I hated you, I'd just be like, you go ahead and follow your false prophet, and I won't say a word. You go ahead and live your life like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Do you? So right, I think we're wrapping up anyway. What have you got going on apart from content? Like, is there anything that you're working on that
Oh,
you want to tell us about? Or, I mean, you're always. That's a silly question, but
yeah, there's some pretty cool stuff going on behind the scenes, but you'll see it.
right. So
You'll see it when it pops.
there you go. Now you know, people. I'd like to thank my admins, obviously, and all the regulars because I love you people. And yeah, I think that there's quite a few channels. I was speaking to some like YouTubers and David the other day, and I think there may be some not unified approach because that sounds a bit theoretical, but a drive to try and address the similar things at the same time to get it to the most people possible. So with that in mind, please do share anything of mine, David's or anyone's that you think someone needs to know, because I do share stuff occasionally, but I have to remind myself because stuff that if I'm surprised, I think, oh, I'm going to tell so and so, but really, you don't. It's like we were discussing a moment ago. I'm not saying send it to all your Muslim friends, but I grew up around a certain amount of Muslims, and they don't know. And it's not like I walk around the supermarket berating people and like waving religious scripture at them. But if you can engender a conversation that's away from cameras and, pray for the discernment to know when, it can help to just send a little video. Even David's ones where it's not the eyebrow isn't too far up, then you'll know like how offended potentially they'll be. But the truth is the truth. And if it doesn't hurt, it's probably not true. Like if it goes against your own doctrine. Thanks, Kev. So thanks so much, David. I know you're busy, and I will continue to stalk you just lightly, occasionally, maybe weekdays between 9 and 5. And yeah, once I get together I call it, well, it's a hit list, but a playlist of the main videos of Ali that have just kept me going today. I'm going to try and pretend I can edit videos, but also I'll get you an AP to take the what's the Americanized, make fun of it with me. So that being said,
I know the British version of that.
yeah, extract the urine is what we say.
Yeah.
So anyway, God bless you all, and just thanks for loving Jesus. And if you don't, get on board. What are you doing with your life? Like, if you're not a Christian, seriously, what will it matter in 100 years? Nothing. You'll all be dead. Sort your lives out with love and all that. And it's not that difficult to love people. You haven't got to like them or anything. You just got to love them. So that was a rubbish ending, but sod it, as they say in England. Right, lots of love. I don't even know how to end my own stream, it turns out, because I did it on my phone. Yes, I do. Right, subscribe, share, like, pray, repent, come to Jesus. run as fast as you can if you see anyone coming towards you with a Quran and a can-do attitude on their face. And yeah, God bless you and thanks. All right. See you later. David, I think I'm going to click the end button and we're all going to get bounced out, but who knows, or dares to drink.
We'll see what happens.
Yep. God bless. All right. Ciao. Bye-bye.